So, ready to supercharge your English vocabulary. We're talking
Uh-huh.
not just good, but seriously impressive.
Yeah, like moving from okay to, whoa, they're eloquent.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to equip you with 60 powerful words.
Words you can actually use, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't some dusty dictionary deep cut.
It's about sounding smarter and speaking more confidently in everyday life.
In emails, presentations, even just casual chats.
Think of it as your secret weapon to making a real impact with your words.
Love that. Okay, so let's break down this arsenal, starting with descriptive adjectives.
Ah, yes, the words that make your language pop,
Instead of just smart, you could say someone is astute.
which implies, like, real sharpness, not just book smarts.
Right. It suggests good judgment, too.
Exactly. And that subtlety, that shift in word choice, changes how you're perceived.
Makes you sound sharper yourself, probably.
For sure. Like, imagine writing a business email. You describe a colleague as astute.
Ooh, subtle bragging.
It implies you see them as insightful, adds to their credibility, and yours by association.
That's a great point. I never thought of it that way.
It's choosing the right tool for the job. Right.
You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb, would you?
Nope. Now, let's say you're describing something imaginative, fun.
Instead of just random, what could we use?
Whimsical comes to mind. Evokes playfulness, creativity.
Ooh, I love that. Paints a more vivid picture.
It's like adding a sprinkle of magic to your language.
Could it ever be bad, though? Like in a super serious setting?
Good question. It highlights how context matters.
Whimsical is great for creative writing, casual talk.
But maybe not a formal business report where straightforward is key.
So it's balance, right? Descriptive, but appropriate to the situation.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's power up. Talking verbs, action words.
Verbs, the engines of our sentences.
They gotta have oomph.
Yeah, how do we make them pack a punch?
Instead of supported an idea, say you bolstered it.
Bolstered sounds way more impressive, doesn't it?
Right. Not passive agreement, you actively strengthened it.
Like you added some muscle to that idea. What else makes us sound persuasive?
How about spreading information? Instead of just spread, use disseminated.
Ooh, disseminated. Sounds official, strategic.
Exactly. It implies wider reach, deliberate action.
Not just gossiping, I'm disseminating vital intel.
And that brings up a key point. The right verb clarifies meaning.
No room for misunderstanding, that's good.
Like, mitigate means reduce severity, while exacerbate makes it worse.
Huge difference there, yeah. The wrong verb can totally change what you meant. Okay, so we've got picture-painting adjectives, action-packed verbs. Now what about nouns, the brainy stuff?
Nouns, yeah, for intelligent conversations.
How do we sound smarter with nouns? Spill the secret.
Choose nouns that handle complex ideas subtly. Like, instead of a problem, you face a dilemma.
Dilemma does sound more sophisticated.
It suggests tough choices, no easy answers.
Not just a flat tire, it's a whole existential dilemma.
Right? Which can actually be helpful sometimes.
Oh, how so?
Say, in a business meeting, a complex deal
You frame it as a dilemma. What happens?
encourages thoughtfulness, collaboration, instead of rushing to a fix.
So it's less confrontational, more intellectual vibe.
Exactly. Another one, instead of contradiction, use paradox.
Ooh, paradox. Like something that sounds impossible, but maybe it's true.
Exactly. A seemingly absurd statement that could still hold truth.
It's like, this can blow your mind, but makes you want to lean in and listen.
Right. Using these nouns shows you can handle complex concepts.
So it's not just sounding smart, it's thinking smart.
Now we got to talk about sounding like a native speaker, right?
Idioms, phrasal verbs. Those are tricky, but fun.
They add color, personality, but
Yeah.
tricky.
Meaning's not always literal. Got to be careful.
But mastering them, that's key to fluency.
Okay, hit me with some idioms I can use right away to impress people.
How about jump on the bandwagon to join a popular trend?
Jump on the bandwagon. Perfect for all those things that suddenly everyone's doing.
Right, like a cultural wave you can't escape.
And it's not always negative, is it?
Sometimes it's just recognizing a good opportunity.
Like, hey, everyone's making sourdough bread. Maybe I should try it.
Okay, how about cut to the chase?
I hear that one a lot, but not 100% sure what it means.
Means get straight to the point, no wasted time.
Like a verbal shortcut. Skip the fluff, get down to business.
Precisely. Here's one for social situations. Break the ice.
Oh, like when you're meeting new people, it's awkward.
You do something to start conversation, ease the tension.
It's like metaphorically breaking that frozen barrier between you.
Exactly. And these are just the beginning. There are tons more out there.
But you said they can be tricky. What mistakes do people make with idioms?
Using them wrong or in the wrong situation.
Like break a leg. For good luck might not translate well in every culture.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to accidentally offend someone.
So it's understanding the culture behind the idiom, not just the words themselves.
Now, want to add some extra oomph to your sentences.
Okay, I'm listening.
We're talking adverbs for emphasis.
The seasoning, the spice, the drama. Bring it on.
One powerful one is adamantly.
Yeah.
Like, she adamantly refused to compromise.
Adamantly, that's serious conviction.
Right. You're drawing a line, not backing down.
Okay, that's intense. What about something more, like, deep and meaningful?
Profoundly works there. Deep impact, transformative.
So profoundly is more than just surface level. It really changes you.
Now, want to inject some caution. Little skepticism.
Ooh, good for those I'm not so sure moments.
Skeptically is your word.
Like he listened skeptically, raising an eyebrow.
Exactly. But remember, use adverbs carefully. Don't overdo it.
Right. Too much spice ruins the dish.
A well-placed adverb highlights too many just clutter things up.
So balance again, just like with everything else we've talked about.
Ready to dive even deeper? We've just scratched the surface here.
I'm so ready. My brain is already feeling more articulate.
Back for more. Excellent. Let's keep unearthing these vocabulary gems.
I'm so ready. Part 1 already has me thinking differently about adjectives, like, wow.
So let's add some more to your toolbox. How about meticulous?
Meticulous. That sounds very precise.
It is. Someone who pays incredible attention to detail.
Like, more than the average person would.
Oh yeah, way more. A surgeon during an operation, that kind of focus.
Or, I don't know, someone organizing their sock drawer by color gradient.
Exactly. But it's not always positive, you know.
Oh, interesting. Too much of a good thing.
Depends on the context, right? Meticulousness can be great.
But if you're so focused on tiny details that you miss the big picture...
Then it becomes a problem. Like a manager who can't see the forest for the trees.
Okay, so balance again. It's a recurring theme here.
Life lesson and a vocabulary lesson, all in one.
I like it. Okay, what about the word candid? That seems popular these days.
Candid is all about honesty. Straightforward, even if it's a bit blunt.
So no sugarcoating, just straight talk.
Exactly. It can be refreshing, especially when people are often afraid to be direct.
So being candid is about being genuine, even if it makes some people uncomfortable.
It's valuing truth over, like, trying to please everyone.
Makes sense. Okay, now for a word that sounds intense. Vehement.
Ooh, yeah, vehement is powerful. It's feeling something strongly.
Like passionately arguing for a cause you believe in.
Exactly. But think about it. Could too much vehemence be bad?
Interesting point. Like if you're trying to win someone over...
And you come on too strong, might push them away.
So passion's good, but maybe temper it with a little logic and respect.
Think of a lawyer giving a closing argument.
They got to be vehement to defend their client.
But also calm and reasoned, or the jury won't buy it.
Okay, that's a good example. Balance, yet again.
Now for something unpredictable. Erratic.
Ooh, I relate to that one. Life feels pretty erratic these days.
Erratic is all over the place, no clear pattern.
Stock market, weather, my sleep schedule, all erratic.
But here's the thing. It's not always negative.
Oh, really? Give me an example of good erratic.
Think about a jazz musician improvising a solo.
Their playing might seem erratic to someone who likes classical music.
But that's what makes it exciting. Unpredictable, keeps you on your toes.
Okay, so even words that sound negative can have a flip side.
Context is everything. Words are tools, you gotta know how to use them.
That's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just memorizing words.
It's understanding how language works.
Exactly. Now, more verbs. I need more action words.
Verbs are key. Remember bolster and disseminate from part 1.
Oh yeah, those were good.
Here's one that's useful, but not in a good way. Exacerbate.
Exacerbate. That sounds like it makes things worse.
It does. The situation was exacerbated by, and then you give the reason.
Like adding fuel to the fire, making the problem even bigger.
You see it a lot in news, explaining complex issues.
Now, what about the opposite? Like making things better?
Mitigate is
Yeah.
your word. Reducing the severity of something.
Damage control. Not solving the whole problem, but lessening the impact. That's important in so many fields.
Disaster relief, yeah. Or even just everyday life, mitigating stress, arguments.
I need to use mitigate more. Sounds very in
Right.
control.
Now for one that makes you sound super smart. Scrutinize.
Scrutinize, that's careful examination, right?
Exactly. Looking for clues, details others might miss.
Detectives scrutinize a crime scene. Scientists scrutinize data.
It implies thoroughness, attention to detail, like you're using a magnifying glass.
Okay, that's a good one for when I want to sound impressive.
Now for something a bit sneakier, undermine.
Undermine sounds kind of shady.
It can be. Weakening something gradually, often secretly.
Like rumors undermining someone's reputation.
Exactly. Or constant criticism undermining someone's confidence.
It's subtle but powerful. You don't see it coming until the damage is done.
Let's switch gears to something more, heartwarming.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Commiserate.
Yeah.
To share in someone's sorrow.
Commiserate. That's about empathy, right?
Exactly. When a friend is going through something tough, you commiserate with them.
It's that feeling of, I get it, I'm here for you. Very human.
Okay, last verb for now. Illuminate.
Illuminate. Makes me think of light bulbs, ideas.
It's about making something clearer, easier to understand.
Like a good teacher illuminates a complex topic for their students.
Or a well-written article illuminates a current event.
It's bringing something out of the darkness into the light.
Here, finally, a simple but important one. Reiterate.
Reiterate means to repeat something.
Right.
But for emphasis.
Exactly. To make sure it's really sunk in, no room for misinterpretation.
Like, I want to reiterate, this is very important.
Okay, so tons of verbs, each with its own flavor.
I'm feeling very empowered verb-wise.
Now, ready for some noun power? Level up those conversations.
All right, we've tackled those vivid adjectives, those dynamic verbs. We even dipped our toes into the world of idioms.
Right. But there's this other category of words, kind of like the unsung heroes of good communication.
The behind-the-scenes crew making everything run smoothly.
Exactly. Connector words. They might seem small, but they're essential.
Connector words. Okay, give me an example. What do they do?
They help guide your listener or reader through your thoughts, create a flow.
Ah, so without them, it'd be like a bumpy road all over the place.
Exactly. Choppy, disjointed, hard to follow.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these little words matter a lot.
They're like the architects of clear communication.
Okay, so which connector words should we be paying attention to?
Let's start with ones that signal a contrast, like shifting gears in your argument.
Ooh, I like that. Turning a corner, but smoothly.
Words like, however, nevertheless, on the other hand.
However is definitely one I use a lot in writing.
It's a classic. Signals, okay, here comes a different perspective.
But what about nevertheless? It sounds more formal, maybe.
Nevertheless has a bit more oomph to it.
Like, despite what I just said, this other point still stands strong.
Exactly. It emphasizes that your argument is still valid, even considering counterpoints.
So if I'm in a debate, nevertheless is my secret weapon.
You got it. Now, on the other hand, is a bit different.
It sounds more like, let's look at both sides of this.
Right. It's more balanced, presents alternatives without necessarily picking a side.
Like, here's option A, and on the other hand, we have option B.
Perfect example. It encourages thoughtful consideration.
Okay, so we've got contrast covered. What else is there?
Adding information, building on what you've already said.
Like, and another thing, but fancier, right?
Words like moreover, furthermore, in addition.
Ooh, those sound impressive. Layering those ideas, making the argument stronger.
Each one has a slightly different nuance, though.
Oh, like what? Give me the moreover versus furthermore breakdown.
Moreover adds weight to your argument. Like, this next point is even more convincing.
It's the mic drop moment, but for arguments.
While furthermore is more about expanding on the previous point.
Providing more detail, going deeper into that specific idea. So it's not just a random list of points, they're connected.
Exactly. Now, in addition is the most versatile, I'd say.
Just a simple way to add another piece of information.
Yeah, it's like, here's another thing to consider along with everything else.
Keeps the conversation moving smoothly. Okay, so contrast, addition. What else?
Cause and effect. Essential for clear reasoning.
Ah, explaining how one thing leads to another.
Words like therefore, consequently, as a result.
These are like the logic connectors showing why things happen.
So instead of just stating facts, you're building a chain of reasoning.
But those words all sound kind of similar. What are the subtle differences?
Therefore is the most direct, like this must be true because of what came before.
It's a very confident conclusion based on the evidence you've given.
While consequently suggests a more indirect relationship.
Like there might be other factors involved. It's not always so simple. Okay, so it's cause and effect, but with a bit more nuance.
Exactly. And as a result is somewhere in between, I'd say.
So we've got options, depending on how direct we want to be.
That's the beauty of language, right? So many tools to choose from.
This has been amazing. Seriously, my brain is buzzing with all these new connections.
That's what we aim for. And remember, the more you pay attention to these words,
The more I'll start using them naturally without even thinking about it.
you got it. It becomes second nature.
Well, I feel equipped to go out there and conquer the world, one connector word at a time.
That's the spirit. Remember, the power of language is in your hands.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into powerful words. We hope you've enjoyed this linguistic adventure.
And until next time, keep those words flowing. Keep those connections strong. All right, let's supercharge that everyday English, huh?
Sounds good to me.
We're going to dive deep into 33 words. 33 words
Wow.
that'll make you sound, well, instantly more like a natural, confident English speaker.
I like it.
And this isn't just, your basic vocabulary lesson.
All right.
We're going way beyond that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to uncover how native speakers, actually use these words, the subtle ways. You'll be surprised, I think,
You really will.
at the nuances
Yeah, for sure.
that maybe you've missed before, even if you've been speaking English for quite a while.
It's true. Even simple words, right? Can have like all these hidden depths to them.
Absolutely.
And using them correctly can make a big difference, I think,
Totally.
in how you come across, especially like professionally.
Yeah, especially in professional settings.
Okay.
So our source material, this is designed for like upper intermediate learners,
Yeah.
which means you guys listening, you already have a pretty solid foundation.
Yeah.
We're just adding that, extra polish and precision.
That's a good way to put it.
Think of it like, you've got like a good basic dish,
Okay.
and we're just going to add in those gourmet touches, really going to elevate the flavor.
I like that analogy. We've got some tasty ingredients to work with today.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with these essential words for daily conversations, right? This is the kind of stuff you need to just navigate life.
Yeah, just get things done. Errands, appointments, all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
The building blocks, right?
Yeah.
Fluent communication. Master these, and you'll be able to handle almost any everyday situation, I think.
Totally. And the first word that jumps out at me is convenient.
Okay.
I mean, it seems pretty straightforward, but I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this too, native speakers use it to soften requests,
Oh, yeah.
or suggestions. Like, instead of just saying, can you meet me at 2 p.m.?
Yeah.
They'll say, would 2 p.m. be convenient for you?
That's a great observation. Yeah, it adds that layer of like politeness,
Yes.
consideration, right?
Yeah.
Which can really make your interactions, go much more smoothly. It shows that you're thinking about like their schedule and their preferences.
It's such a little linguistic trick,
It is.
but it makes you sound so thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, another word in this category is confirm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's obviously important, right?
Right.
For making sure everyone's on the same page. But I've noticed it's also often used in emails, to add that sense of urgency or importance.
Totally.
You notice that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just adding a simple phrase like, please confirm your attendance. It can subtly nudge someone to respond quickly,
Yes.
right? And it shows that you're taking the matter seriously
Yeah.
and you expect them to do the same.
Right. It's almost like a gentle reminder disguised as a polite request. That's good stuff. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit to the workplace. Workplace and business vocabulary.
You love to see it.
I mean, you got to love it, right?
Well, they might not always spark joy,
Yeah, that's true.
these words, but they're definitely essential for, succeeding in a professional environment.
They really are. And one word that always makes people cringe a little bit is deadline.
Okay.
But, think about how native speakers use it, though. It's not always this harsh, immovable wall,
You're right. It's not always a hard stop.
Right.
Yeah.
They often soften it by using, phrases like let's aim for, or ideally we'd like to have this by.
Right.
It frames the deadline as a shared goal rather than a command.
Exactly.
So it's not just about meeting the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you communicate it, the tone.
Exactly. Yeah. And another word in this category I find fascinating is prioritize.
Oh, yeah.
Like real power word, I think.
It is.
Because it shows that you're in control of your workload, right?
Yeah. It's like saying, I've got a lot on my plate,
Yeah.
but I know what's most important.
Yeah. And it can be a great way to, push back politely if someone is like asking you to take on too much, right? You could say, I need to prioritize my current tasks, but I can take a look at that next week.
Okay. That's a good move. I like that. I'm going to try that one. All right. So let's talk about something a little bit less stressful, maybe. Shopping and money vocabulary.
Okay, I like it.
I got to admit, I do love like browsing online stores and comparing prices.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't enjoy a good bargain hunt?
Right.
Yeah.
But even when you're dealing with money, there are like subtle ways to use language that can make you a more like informed and confident consumer.
I think so too.
For example, I've noticed that native speakers use purchase a lot
Yeah.
when they want to sound more like deliberate,
Oh.
intentional about their spending. It's not just buying something, it's like making a considered choice.
You're right. It elevates it, right?
Right.
Like buying to something more thoughtful, especially like when dealing with larger purchases.
Exactly. Like you're saying, I didn't just impulse buy this. I carefully considered my options and I made a conscious decision to purchase it.
Right. And that can be a powerful distinction,
Yeah.
both for your own like financial awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also for how other people perceive your spending habits.
Okay. Let's move on to social and entertainment vocabulary.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. The words we need to connect with others and have some fun.
Yeah, this is where language comes alive, I think. Sharing experiences, expressing emotions, creating memories.
And one word that immediately brings those good vibes is concert.
Oh, yeah.
I just love how it like conjures up images of like live music, crowds of people singing along, just pure energy.
It really does. It encapsulates like a whole sensory experience, right? Like, and notice how native speakers use like all these vivid adjectives, right, to describe concerts. Like unforgettable,
Yes.
electrifying, soul-stirring. Like they're painting a picture with their words.
They really are. It's like they're inviting you to relive the experience with them. Now, another word in this category that's like super versatile is host.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we already talked about how it can be used to like subtly encourage action,
Right.
right? But it also has that like more literal meaning of someone who welcomes and entertains guests.
It does. And it's interesting how that concept of hospitality extends beyond just like social gatherings, right?
Yeah.
Like you can host a website, host a radio show. It's all about, providing a platform, a space for others.
So it's not just about throwing a party, right?
Right.
It's about creating that experience, the sense of welcome,
Yeah.
no matter the context.
That's what makes this word so powerful, right? It captures like the essence of generosity
Yes.
and connection.
Okay, before we jump into the next set of words, I kind of want to pause and reflect for a second.
Okay.
What's like standing out to you so far? Any words you're particularly like excited to try out using in your own conversations?
I think for me, I'm really intrigued by how native speakers use, convenient and confirm to like subtly influence interactions, right?
Yes.
It's a good reminder that even like seemingly simple words can be used strategically to get a specific outcome.
100%. I'm already thinking about how I can weave those into like my emails,
Yeah.
my conversations.
Yeah. And don't forget about like prioritize.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's a good one.
Such a powerful word for like setting boundaries,
It is.
managing expectations, both in like professional and personal settings.
Absolutely. It's like a magic word for staying in control of your time and energy. All right. Are you ready to explore some more?
I am.
I'm excited.
I'm eager to see what other like linguistic gems we uncover here.
I think we're going to find some good ones.
Me too.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's keep this vocabulary train rolling.
Let's do it.
I feel like,
Yeah,
my English muscles are getting stronger already.
for sure.
What's next on our list?
Well, let's delve into a word that's, essential for those moments when
Yeah.
plans change.
Yeah.
The inevitable cancel.
Oh, yeah.
Cancel?
Yeah, it might not be the most
Right.
pleasant word to utter,
No.
but mastering its nuances, I think, can save you from some awkward situations.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of last-minute cancellations.
Oh, sure.
And I think knowing how to like communicate those clearly
Yeah.
and politely
Right.
is key.
It really is. And it's not just about saying, I can't make it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Native speakers will often use phrases like, something came up, or
Right.
I have to reschedule,
Yeah.
which, just sound less abrupt.
Yes.
And they offer, like, a sense of explanation.
Right. Without going into, like, unnecessary detail.
It's like, you're being direct,
Yeah.
but also considerate.
Exactly. It's all about striking that balance. And that brings us to another essential word,
Flip.
feedback.
Oh, yeah.
We all receive feedback, whether we seek it out or not.
Sure.
And I think knowing how to use this word effectively can make all the difference in our personal and professional growth.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Feedback can be a powerful tool,
It is.
for learning and improvement, but it can also be kind of tricky to navigate. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I've noticed that native speakers often soften the blow
Yeah.
of constructive criticism by framing it as observations or suggestions
Exactly.
rather than like,
Yeah.
outright judgments.
Right. So instead of saying, you should have done this or you did this wrong,
Right.
they might say something like, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Or have you considered? Right.
Yeah.
Creates a much more collaborative,
Yes.
a less confrontational tone.
It's like you're part of the solution
Yeah.
instead of being the problem.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears to something a little lighter.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
Fun.
I mean, this word just
Yeah.
encompasses so many things
Yes.
that we enjoy.
It does, and it's a word that often comes with this sense of excitement and anticipation, right?
Right.
Like native speakers will use phrases like, I can't wait to, or I'm really looking forward to,
Yes.
when they talk about entertainment,
Hopefully.
which I think adds to that feeling of eagerness.
Like they're already
Yeah,
experiencing the joy even before it's happened.
exactly.
And speaking of excitement,
Yes.
let's talk about bargains.
All right.
Who doesn't love a good bargain?
Bargain hunting.
Yeah.
It's practically a sport for some people.
It is.
And native speakers have like this whole arsenal of vocabulary
Just
for describing their amazing finds, right?
Mhm.
So they might say something is a steal,
yeah.
a great value, or worth every penny.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving you permission
Right.
to like indulge
Uh-huh.
without feeling guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, on the flip side of bargains, there's the reality of expenses.
Right. That's true.
And this is where the words expensive and affordable come in.
Yeah,
It's not just about stating facts. It's
Yeah.
about expressing opinions,
for sure.
preferences, right?
Yeah. Native speakers might say something like overpriced or a bit steep or reasonably priced, depending on the
Totally.
speaker.
So it's not just about the price tag. It's about how that price makes you feel
Uh-huh.
and how you want others to perceive it.
Exactly. Using language to convey
Yeah.
your personal value system
Yes.
when it comes to spending.
Love that. Okay, before we wrap up this section, let's tackle a word that's super essential
Yeah.
for any consumer. Refund.
Oh, yes. Refund.
Ah, yes, the magic word, right.
Huh?
That can, save the day when a purchase goes wrong.
Totally.
But I've noticed native speakers often approach refund requests with a certain level of,
Diplomacy.
diplomacy, yes.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just, demanding.
Right. They're very tactful about it. That
Yeah.
they might start by, expressing understanding, acknowledging the inconvenience before actually stating their request. So,
Sure.
Phrases like, I understand this is probably not your fault, but, or I'm really disappointed with this purchase and I was hoping, things like that can go a long way in getting a positive response.
It's like you're appealing to their sense of
Yeah,
fairness and customer service.
exactly. And not
Yeah.
just demanding a refund
Right.
outright.
I love that. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
It's amazing how much depth and nuance there is to even the most everyday words.
It's true. And I think the key takeaway is that language is so much more than just,
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah.
It's a tool for building relationships, expressing ourselves, and navigating the world around us.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So as we move into the final stretch of our deep dive, let's keep this idea of strategic language use in mind.
Okay.
What are some other ways that we can use these seemingly simple words to make a big impact in our everyday lives? It's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
How we can unlock a whole new level of communication.
It's true.
Just by fine-tuning our word choices.
It is, yeah.
And we've been talking about these 33
Right.
essential English words.
Yeah.
And I'm like already starting to see them in a new light. It's not just about knowing the definitions.
Right.
It's about understanding like the subtle ways native speakers use them to create these
Very intentional.
specific effects.
Yeah.
It's like having, like a secret code book
It is, yeah.
for navigating these everyday conversations,
Right.
workplace interactions, even
Yeah.
those tricky moments when you need to, like
Yeah.
cancel plans or request a refund.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best part is these secret codes are actually pretty simple
Yeah, I think so too.
to implement.
Once you're aware of them, right?
Once you're aware of them,
Yeah.
it's all about like paying attention to the details,
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to how native speakers use the language, and then, trying it out yourself.
And don't be afraid to experiment, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the beauty of language. It's
Yeah.
constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So there's always room to
Agree.
play around with different words and phrases and see what works best for you.
That's such a good point. It's like, like learning a new dance move.
Oh, yeah.
You might feel a bit awkward at first.
Yeah, for sure.
But the more you practice it,
Yeah,
the smoother and more natural it becomes.
exactly. And just like dancing, the key is to have fun with it.
Yes.
Don't get too bogged down in the rules.
Right.
Don't worry about making mistakes.
Yeah.
Just, the most important thing is to communicate
Yeah.
effectively and connect with others.
I love that. And that brings me to a little challenge
Okay.
I want to give to our listeners.
Right.
Now that we've explored these 73 words,
Yeah.
I want you to pick just 5
Okay.
that really resonate with you.
Yeah.
5 words that you think you could start using more consciously
Yeah.
in your everyday life.
Okay.
Maybe it's convenient for making those polite requests or prioritize for setting those boundaries
Yeah.
at work
Yeah.
or even bargain
Yeah.
for bragging about your latest shopping score.
I like it.
Whatever words speak to you, I want you to
Yeah.
make a commitment to use them this week.
All right.
See how it feels? Notice how people react.
Yeah.
I bet you'd be surprised at the difference it makes.
I love that challenge.
Me too.
It's a great way to, put these words into practice and see the
Yeah.
power of nuanced language
Yes.
in action,
That's good action.
And who knows, you might even inspire others to start paying closer attention to their own word choices.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive into everyday English, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
Language is a journey, not a destination.
Ooh, I like that.
There's always more to learn, more to explore,
Yeah.
and more ways to express ourselves.
I agree.
So keep those ears open, those minds curious, and those conversations flowing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another deep dive with us. So today we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Yeah. Basically, we're going to be going over the top 21 most frequently used words in the English language.
Yeah, and it's really amazing how such a small set of words can make up like the foundation for like daily conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, whether you're a beginner or, you consider yourself more advanced, understanding these words and how to use them effectively, is really going to help you sound more fluent, more natural. So joining me today to, help us unpack all of this and really give us some good insights is...
Hi, everyone.
So I'm really excited to jump into this with you. So I guess to start off, our source has broken down these 21 words into different categories.
Right.
So we've got verbs and we've got conversational words and then we've got nouns and adjectives. So I figure, why don't we just go in order? Verbs, those are like the action words, right? The workhorses of the sentence. So let's start there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So the first one on the list is go. And, I think most people, when they think about go, they're thinking, it's about like physical movement.
Right. Like I go to the store.
Right. Exactly.
But, it can also indicate like a change of state. Like the lights went out or even like a progression of time, like as the years go by.
That's so true. I never really thought about like all the different ways that we use that one little word, go. All right. What about get? That one seems even more, multifaceted.
Yeah, get is a very interesting one, because it often implies a process or a change of state that's sort of outside of your direct control.
Oh, okay.
So you think about phrases like get sick or get lost. You know, it's
Okay.
like something is happening to you. It's not like you're directly making it happen.
Right. It's like something's being done to you.
Exactly.
But then on the other hand, you have phrases like get rich or get ahead.
Right.
And those have a very different connotation.
Yeah.
Right. It's much more like intentional, almost aspirational.
Yeah, it's like get reflects our relationship with change itself, whether it's something we're actively pursuing or something that's kind of being imposed upon us.
That's so interesting. I like that a lot. Okay, so moving right along. Next up we have do. And this one always feels to me like the ultimate multitasker.
Definitely.
He can do so many things.
Absolutely. It's amazing how often do just pops up in our sentences. From describing our jobs, like, what do you do?
Right.
To expressing obligations, I have to do my homework. It really is like the Swiss Army knife of verbs.
Yeah, and it plays such a key role in questions too. Do you like pizza? Did you see that movie? Like it's just, it makes the question a question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've had go, we've had get, we've had do. What about have?
Oh, have. That's another one that's surprisingly versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we use it for possession. I have a car.
Right.
But we also use it for experiences. I had a great time. And then, all those idioms too. Have a nice day. Have a good one. These are just ingrained into our everyday conversations.
Yeah, and I think have really highlights how so much of language is really about more than just, the literal meaning. It's about, creating a feeling or, connecting with someone on a social level.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's tackle make. I feel like this is one I use constantly. Make dinner, make a decision, make a mistake. It's all about like creating something or causing something to happen.
Yes.
But then there's also this element of obligation sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like I made him apologize.
Exactly. Make implies that you're kind of bringing something into being. You're causing something to happen. And you're right about the obligation aspect too. It can be used to express, influence or even a sense of like responsibility for something.
Well, like you're the driving force behind whatever is happening.
Exactly.
Okay. And last but not least on our list of verbs, we have take.
Take. Now, this is an interesting one because take often involves a sense of action combined with possession or control. So, think about phrases like take a break, take a seat, take charge.
Right. It's like you're asserting yourself in some way, whether you're taking something for yourself or taking control of a situation.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've got go get, do, have, make, and take. That is a lot of verbal power packed into 6 little words.
It really is. It's amazing how much we can express with just the small set of verbs.
Okay, so we've covered the verbs. Now let's move on to those little words that I like to think of as kind of like the glue that holds our conversations together. Those little conversational connectors.
Right.
So things like hi and bye and thanks and sorry. I mean, how deep can we really go with these?
You might be surprised. Even these seemingly simple expressions play a really vital role in how we interact with each other.
Okay.
For example, hi and hello, they're not just greetings. They signal that you're open to communication and connection.
Oh, so it's like setting the tone right from the start, like you're extending an invitation to engage in a conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, and then on the flip side, we have bye.
Right, which signals, closure. It marks the end of the conversation. And, it allows us to transition smoothly out of the interaction.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered greeting and departing. But what about those little words that add a touch of, politeness and gratitude to our interactions?
You mean thanks and sorry?
Exactly.
Ah, yes. Those are powerful tools. They help us maintain social harmony. And they help us, navigate those little bumps in the road of human interaction.
Yeah. Thanks acknowledges a favor, right, or a kind gesture, and it, reinforces those positive interactions that we have. And sorry is all about taking responsibility for something, smoothing over those mistakes and showing empathy.
Exactly. They're subtle, but they're really essential for building good relationships.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how we often, modify these words for emphasis. Like saying thanks a lot. It carries a lot more weight than a simple thanks.
Oh, definitely.
Or I'm so sorry versus just sorry. It adds that extra layer of sincerity.
Exactly. These little nuances can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've explored 6 key verbs and 4 of these essential conversational words.
We have.
Are you starting to see the power of these seemingly simple words?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we're peeling back the layers and discovering all this like hidden depth to language.
I agree.
All right, so I think we're ready to tackle our next category, which is nouns. So where do we even begin with this?
Well, our source has chosen a handful of nouns that represent like fundamental concepts, the building blocks of how we understand the world.
Okay.
So let's start with time.
Okay, time.
Such a basic concept, yet it governs so much of our lives.
Right. We're constantly thinking of time. What time is it? Do we have enough time? It's like this invisible force shaping our days.
Right. And the source actually delves into some pretty deep questions about time.
Oh, really?
Like, how do different cultures perceive time? What's the relationship between time and memory? It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. All right, so alongside time, we have day, which seems, very ordinary. But, it really does mark the rhythm of our lives. Have a good day. It's a brand new day.
Right. And day can also refer to like a specific period in history, like back in the day or the day the music died. It connects us to this flow of time, both personal and historical.
Wow, I like that. Okay, what's next?
Next up is thing, which I have to admit always makes me chuckle a little bit.
Why is that?
Well, it's like the ultimate catch-all word, for when our vocabulary fails us.
Oh, yeah. It's like the ultimate placeholder. What's that thing over there? The thing is. But, it's actually really effective at conveying meaning, even when we can't come up with, like, a more specific word.
Right. It shows that communication isn't always about, perfect grammar or an extensive vocabulary. It's about getting your message across. And sometimes thing does the job perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So speaking of conveying meaning, we've got place next on our list. It seems like a pretty straightforward word, but I'm sure there's more to it than meets the eye.
There is. Place isn't just about physical location. It can also refer to like a position in a sequence, like take your place in line, or even a state of mind, like feeling out of place. It's a word that helps us navigate the world in all sorts of ways.
Right. It's like place isn't just about where we are physically, but also about how we fit in.
Exactly.
And how we make sense of our surroundings.
Exactly.
Okay. And then finally, we have people, which, it's like, it seems so obvious, but, when you think about it, people are really what makes the world go round, right?
That's true.
People represents our shared humanity.
Right.
That's the foundation of society and relationships and, everything that makes us human.
It's the word that reminds us we're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've explored verbs, conversational connectors, and now nouns. I'm already feeling like I have a whole new appreciation for the power of these everyday words. But before we jump into adjectives, I'm curious, what's standing out to you so far?
Honestly, I think what struck me the most is how much depth and nuance there is, even in the simplest words. We use them all the time, but we don't often stop and think about how they work.
Yeah. It's like we're taking them for granted.
Totally.
But I think this deep dive is really helping us to, kind of slow down and appreciate the, the intricacies of these words that we usually just take for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So adjectives, I think we're ready.
Let's do it. It's funny how we can go through like our whole lives using these words and never really stop to think about them.
Right. It's true. But that's, I think, what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like we're forced to slow down and actually like appreciate these things that we usually just, take for granted.
Yeah.
So last we left off, we were about to delve into the world of adjectives. So are you ready to add some color to our conversation?
Absolutely. Adjectives are what bring our language to life.
Yeah, they do.
They paint pictures in our minds, they evoke emotions, and they help us make sense of the world.
I love that. So true. And they add, that extra layer of detail that just makes our communication so much richer. Okay, so why don't we start with good? I feel like that's like the most basic adjective in the English language.
It really is. Good is our go-to word for expressing approval or satisfaction or, just like the absence of anything negative.
Right.
It's a wonderfully versatile word.
It is.
You can use it for pretty much anything.
I've noticed that good is often used as kind of a conversational placeholder, especially when we're trying to be polite. Or avoid being too critical. Like, oh, that's a good point. Even if you don't really agree with what the person is saying.
Right. It's like a way of maintaining harmony.
Yeah.
Smoothing over those potential disagreements or awkward moments.
Right. Okay, so good is all about positivity and agreeableness. What about new? What kind of energy does new bring?
New is all about excitement, possibility, a sense of change. It draws our attention to something fresh, something that stands out from the ordinary.
Right.
Think about like getting a new phone or starting a new job.
Right.
There's that element of curiosity and intrigue.
There is. It makes you want to learn more to explore. And it can also be a really powerful marketing tool.
Right.
New and improved, the latest and greatest.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like designed to pique our interest.
Absolutely. New really taps into that human desire for novelty and fascination with progress.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, new can also highlight a lack of experience.
That's true.
Like new to the job or a new driver.
Right.
It implies a learning curve.
Definitely.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Right.
Right. It can be exhilarating,
right,
but it can also be intimidating.
Depending on the context.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered good and new. Ready to wrap things up with happy.
Let's do it. Happy is such a fundamental human emotion.
It is.
It resonates across cultures. It's the language of joy and contentment and well-being.
Yeah, and it's amazing how contagious happiness can be. Like when someone greets you with a genuine smile and they say good morning, it can like brighten your whole day.
It's true. It's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
Spreading positivity.
And happy isn't just about those fleeting moments of joy either.
Right.
It's about, that deeper sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, that sense of purpose.
Yeah. I think that's what makes happy such a powerful word. It encompasses such a, wide spectrum of positive emotions.
I agree.
Okay, so we've tackled adjectives, but I want to circle back to something you said earlier about how adjectives can paint pictures in our minds and evoke emotions. Do you think there's a connection between these simple adjectives and how we experience the world?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think the answer is yes. The words we use shape how we see things. They provide the framework for how we understand and interpret our experiences.
So, for example, if we're constantly using negative adjectives to describe ourselves or the world around us, we might actually start to see things more negatively.
Exactly. The language we use becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow.
It influences our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately our actions.
That's a powerful reminder to be mindful of the words we choose.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Verbs, conversational connectors, nouns, adjectives.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we can learn from just 21 words.
It really is.
And we haven't even touched on phrasal verbs yet.
Oh, yes.
So those are next on our list. And I think you'll be surprised by how much they add to the richness and complexity of the language.
I think so too.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Bring on the phrasal verbs. All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've already covered so much.
Yeah.
But before the break, you mentioned phrasal verbs. What are those exactly and why are they so important?
So phrasal verbs are basically like these combinations of a verb and another word, usually like a preposition or an adverb. And when you put them together, they create a totally new meaning.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's take the verb look. Pretty straightforward word, right? But when you start adding prepositions like up after or into, you get phrasal verbs with completely different meanings. So like look up means to search for information.
Right.
Look after means to take care of someone. And look into means to investigate something.
Wow, you're right.
So you see how just a little tweak can make our language so much more expressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So are phrasal verbs just about adding more words to our vocabulary?
It's more than just adding words. It's about nuance. It's about idiom. Phrasal verbs capture these subtle shades of meaning that would be really hard to express otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
And they make your English sound much more natural, more like a native speaker.
So if they're so nuanced, how do we even begin to learn all of them?
Well, the good news is you don't have to learn every single phrasal verb out there.
Okay.
Just focus on the most common ones, the ones that come up a lot in everyday conversations.
Okay, that makes sense.
And pay attention to the context, because phrasal verbs can have different meanings depending on the situation.
Right.
So try to learn them in real life examples, not just from lists.
So instead of just memorizing look up, I should try to remember it in a sentence. I need to look at the meaning of this word.
Exactly. Because then you're associating the phrasal verb with a specific meaning and a specific usage.
That's really helpful.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
The best way to learn phrasal verbs is to actually use them. Start incorporating them into your conversations, even if you're not 100% sure you're using them correctly.
So what if I make a mistake?
Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Even native speakers make mistakes with phrasal verbs all the time.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
So don't worry too much about it. Just practice and you'll get more comfortable over time.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about verbs, conversational connectors, nouns, adjectives, and now phrasal verbs. It's pretty amazing how much we can learn from just 21 words.
It really is. I think it just goes to show the power of language.
Yeah.
and how these simple building blocks can be used to express so many different things.
So what's like the main takeaway you hope listeners will, walk away with from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is that fluency isn't about memorizing a huge vocabulary or mastering all the grammar rules. It's about understanding the basic principles of how language works,
Okay.
and then using those principles to communicate effectively.
So it's not about quantity.
Right.
It's about quality.
Exactly. By focusing on these 21 words, you're not just learning vocabulary, you're gaining a deeper understanding of how English works.
I love that.
Yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to challenge our listeners to do after this deep dive?
I would challenge them to really pay attention to how these 21 words are being used all around them. Listen to conversations, read books and articles, and see if you can notice how these words are like the threads that hold everything together.
I like that. It's like a treasure hunt.
It is.
And the more you find, the better you'll become at understanding and speaking the language.
Exactly.
Well, this has been such an eye-opening deep dive for me. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
And I definitely have a new appreciation for these words that we use every day. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time for another deep dive. All right, so you're looking to really master English quickly and effectively.
Right.
So let's dive into this.
Okay.
The secret sauce revealed in your sources.
Sure.
It's mastering the 4 key language skills. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Okay.
We'll unpack each of those skills.
Yeah.
Sprinkle in some practical tips.
Right.
Some relatable examples, and we'll basically create your roadmap to fluency.
It's interesting because those 4 skills aren't just for English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the foundation of any language.
Interesting.
You soak up language through listening, you communicate through speaking, you explore the world through reading, and express yourself through writing.
Okay.
So it's really the foundation of communication.
Gotcha. So listening.
Yeah.
It's the base. It's the way we naturally absorb language, just like babies do.
Right.
Before they can even utter a word.
Yeah.
Immersing yourself is key.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more to it than that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Think about how parents instinctively talk to their kids.
Oh, okay.
Simpler words, they slow down.
Right.
They emphasize key sounds.
Yeah.
Well, that same principle applies to learning any language.
Interesting.
Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig.
Yeah, with its clear pronunciation and simple storylines,
Okay.
is a surprisingly effective tool for tuning your ears to the rhythm and sounds of English.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I see how that simplified input can really help with picking up the basics.
Right.
But what about those of us who maybe aren't into cartoons?
Yeah.
How do we immerse ourselves effectively?
Subtitles are your secret weapon.
Ooh.
Start with your favorite shows.
Okay.
Friends, Stranger Things,
Yeah.
anything that you enjoy.
Gotcha.
Watching with English subtitles lets you read and listen simultaneously,
Right.
reinforcing your comprehension.
Okay.
Then try watching the same scene without subtitles to test yourself.
So it's like training wheels for your ears.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it ties into the idea of active listening,
Oh, okay.
which goes beyond just passively hearing the words.
Okay.
You're mimicking pronunciation,
Right.
paying attention to tone,
Yeah.
and truly engaging with the nuances of spoken English.
Active listening. I like that.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more deliberate and purposeful than just having the TV on in the background.
Right?
Okay, so we've got listening down.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
speaking,
Yeah,
that's often the trickiest part, right?
absolutely.
It's easy to feel self-conscious about making mistakes.
One technique that can help you overcome that fear and build confidence is shadowing.
Shadowing.
You listen to a sentence and you repeat it immediately, mimicking the speaker's tone and rhythm.
Oh, okay.
Want to try it?
Yeah.
Repeat after me.
Okay.
I'd like a cup of coffee, please.
I'd like a cup of coffee, please.
Hey, it's already making you think about your pronunciation more.
It is.
Yeah.
I like that.
And don't underestimate the power of everyday conversations,
Oh.
even if it's just talking to yourself.
Interesting.
Describe what you're doing as you go about your day.
Right.
I'm cooking dinner. I'm walking the dog.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
So it's about finding those little opportunities to practice speaking,
Precisely.
even if it feels a bit silly at first.
Exactly. And when it comes to speaking,
Yeah.
remember that learning sentence patterns
Okay.
is more effective than memorizing isolated words.
Interesting.
Let's revisit that coffee example.
All right.
Once you've got, I'd like a cup of coffee down,
Mm-hmm.
you can swap coffee for tea,
Right.
water,
Uh-huh.
a slice of cake.
Yeah.
Suddenly you've unlocked a flexible phrase for a variety of situations.
Okay, that's a really helpful way to think about it.
Yeah.
Instead of memorizing a whole dictionary,
Right.
You're learning the building blocks of sentences and how to adapt them.
Exactly.
So we've covered listening and speaking.
Yeah.
What about reading?
Reading is like a treasure trove for expanding your vocabulary, absorbing grammar naturally, and simply enjoying the learning process.
But I imagine it can be a bit overwhelming. Where do you even start?
It doesn't have to be intimidating.
Okay.
Start with materials you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Maybe news headlines, a favorite blog, even social media posts.
Okay.
The key is to find content that keeps you engaged.
Right.
And coming back for more.
So instead of forcing myself to read classic literature that I don't understand, I could start with something more my speed.
Exactly. And here's a tip.
Okay.
Don't get bogged down by every unfamiliar word.
Right.
Use context clues to guess the meaning.
Oh, interesting.
For example,
the
restaurant was crowded, so we decided to leave. Even if you don't know crowded, you can infer it means something uncomfortable. Or undesirable because they left.
Right. That's a great point. I do that all the time when I'm reading in my native language. Why not apply it to English as well?
Precisely, it's about activating those critical thinking skills. And becoming an active reader. Not just passively skimming the words. You can also make reading more interactive by underlining new words, writing them down, and even creating your own sentences with them.
Interesting. So it's about turning reading into an active learning experience rather than just passively absorbing information. It's listening, speaking, and reading covered. What about writing? I feel like that's the one a lot of people struggle with.
Writing is a fantastic way to organize your thoughts, refine your grammar, and flex those creative muscles in English. And the best part is you can start small. Think about writing simple sentences about your daily routine. I wake up at 7 a.m. I eat breakfast at 8 a.m. You know, just those very basic things.
So it's not about writing the next great novel.
Exactly.
It's about getting comfortable expressing yourself in written English.
Precisely. And journaling in English is a great low-pressure practice. It's a private space to experiment with the language without fear of judgment. You can also leverage language exchange apps to get feedback from native speakers and learn from your mistakes.
I like that. It's all about embracing those mistakes as opportunities to learn.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 skills. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. They seem pretty interconnected, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Think of it like a web with each skill supporting and reinforcing the others. When you listen, you're not just absorbing sounds. You're also picking up on grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. When you speak, you're putting all of that knowledge into practice. And when you read, you're expanding your vocabulary, seeing how grammar works in different contexts, which then feeds into your writing.
It's just like this amazing cycle of learning and reinforcement.
Absolutely.
The more you practice each skill, the stronger that web becomes. Leading to greater fluency overall. But how do we make sure we're actually practicing effectively?
That's where motivation and goal setting come in.
Motivation and goal setting.
We'll dive into those crucial aspects in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I'm excited to learn more about that. Sounds good.
Okay. You know, it's fascinating how we often box in language learning as this rigid, classroom-only activity. But in reality, it's happening around us all the time.
That's so true. When you start seeing everyday moments as learning opportunities, it really does open up a whole new world.
Think about it. Every time you watch a movie, listen to music, or even just glance at a menu, you're engaging with English in some way.
It's like this constant stream of input, subtly shaping your understanding of the language.
And it doesn't have to be passive.
Okay.
You can turn those everyday encounters into active learning experiences.
Now that's what I'm talking about. How do we make that happen?
Let's say you're watching a movie. Instead of just following the plot, pay attention to how the characters use certain phrases, the tone they convey, the rhythm of their speech.
So I'm not just watching for entertainment. I'm actively analyzing how the language is being used.
Precisely. And you can apply the same principle to music. Listen to the lyrics, try to sing along, notice how the words are pronounced and how they flow together.
It's like training your ear.
Exactly.
To pick up on those subtle nuances that make a language come alive.
Fluency isn't just about knowing grammar rules
Right.
or having a massive vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
It's about using the language naturally and effortlessly like a native speaker.
Right. It's about feeling comfortable and confident.
Expressing yourself no matter the situation.
And the more you expose yourself to the language
Yeah.
in these authentic contexts,
Right.
the more comfortable you'll become.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the individual skills,
Mm-hmm.
listening, speaking, reading, writing.
Right.
But how do they all work together to create that fluency we're aiming for?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Think of it like a web,
Right?
with each skill interconnected and reinforcing the others.
So when I'm listening to English,
Yeah.
I'm not just absorbing sounds.
Right.
I'm also picking up on grammar,
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary, and pronunciation.
Exactly. And when you speak, you're putting all that knowledge into practice,
Right.
solidifying it in your mind.
And reading expands my vocabulary.
Yes.
Showing me how grammar is used in different contexts.
Which in turn informs your writing
Oh, okay.
as you begin to use those new words and structures in your own work.
It's a beautiful cycle
Absolutely.
of learning and reinforcement. And the more you engage in each of these skills,
Yeah.
the stronger those connections become, leading to greater fluency and overall mastery of the language.
It's like working out a muscle,
Yeah,
making it stronger and more resilient with each exercise.
precisely. And just like with any workout, consistency is key.
Okay.
Even dedicating a few minutes each day to each skill
Mm-hmm.
can make a huge difference over time.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see results overnight.
Right.
Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
And the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I like that.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Embrace the challenges and celebrate those small victories along the way. After all, there's something incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
about being able to communicate in another language.
It's true. Connecting with people from different cultures,
Absolutely.
expanding your horizons. Those are amazing benefits.
It opens up a whole world of possibilities,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
And who knows, maybe one day our listener will be hosting their own podcast in English.
That would be a testament to the power of consistent practice
Right.
and a positive mindset.
Okay, so we've covered the fundamentals of the 4 skills,
Yeah,
the importance of everyday learning, and the power of consistency.
right.
But there's one crucial piece we haven't touched on yet:
And that is,
motivation.
yes.
The fuel that keeps us going,
Uh-huh.
especially when things get tough.
Right.
And of course, setting realistic goals
Yeah.
so we don't get overwhelmed.
Ah, yes. Motivation and goal setting, the compass and map for our language learning journey.
I like that.
We'll dive into those critical aspects after a quick break. Stay tuned.
So we're back, ready to unpack the power of motivation
Yeah.
and goal setting in your English learning journey.
Right.
You know, we've all hit those walls
Yeah.
where the motivation takes a nosedive.
For sure.
How do we keep the fire burning?
What's fascinating here is that motivation isn't this
Okay.
magical thing that appears. It's something you actively cultivate and nurture.
Right.
It all starts with connecting to your why.
Your why.
Yeah.
Okay. So dig deep. Why are you learning English?
Right.
What doors will it open?
Yeah.
Is it to travel the world?
Mm-hmm.
Connect with new people?
Mm-hmm.
Boost your career?
Yeah.
Or simply enjoy those books and movies in their original form?
Having a strong why is like your secret weapon.
Oh, okay.
When doubt or frustration creep in,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind of studying
Yeah.
and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So it's like having a North Star
Exactly.
guiding you even when the path gets a bit rocky.
Yeah.
Speaking of navigating that path, how about setting goals?
Right.
It's tempting to aim for fluency in a few months,
Yeah.
but isn't that setting yourself up for a crash landing?
Absolutely. Setting smaller, achievable goals
Okay.
is key to maintaining momentum
Right.
and celebrating those wins along the way.
Yeah.
Instead of, I want to be fluent in 6 months,
Okay.
break it down. Maybe it's, I want to comfortably chat about my hobbies, or I want to read a short story without a dictionary.
Right. So those smaller victories fuel the motivation to keep going.
Exactly.
And it makes the whole process less intimidating.
For sure.
But even with smaller goals,
Yeah.
we need to be honest about our time.
How much time can you realistically dedicate to learning each week?
Right.
Be specific. Create a schedule that works for you and stick to it.
Okay.
Consistency trumps intensity when it comes to language learning.
So 30 minutes a day is better than cramming for 3 hours once a week.
Exactly.
It's like those little deposits in a savings account.
Right.
They add up over time.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
It's fascinating how much progress you can make.
Yeah.
with consistent effort, even if it's just a little bit each day.
Right.
And don't forget to celebrate those milestones.
Oh, okay.
Acknowledge your progress. Reward yourself.
Yeah.
Let those successes fuel your motivation.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back and saying, hey, I'm doing this.
Exactly.
I'm moving forward.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it's important to remember that the journey of learning English is just as important as the destination.
Right.
Have fun with it.
Couldn't agree more. So
Okay.
there you have it.
Okay.
We've explored the 4 essential skills, the power of finding those everyday learning opportunities,
Right.
and the vital roles of motivation and goal setting.
Yeah.
You've now got the tools,
Okay.
the insights and inspiration to unlock your full language potential.
Awesome.
It's time to define your why, set those realistic goals, and get to work.
So to wrap things up, for
Yes.
anyone listening who wants to master English quickly and effectively, remember it all comes down to mastering those 4 key skills:
Right.
listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Yeah.
And as we've learned today, the best way to tackle these skills is to find a method that works for you. Stay motivated by connecting to your personal why. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yeah, and remember, consistency is key.
Right.
Keep practicing, keep learning,
Absolutely.
and most importantly, have fun with it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English language learning.
It was my pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something you use every day, probably without even thinking about it too much.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Numbers and time.
Okay, interesting. And how are we diving into that?
Well, our roadmap for this deep dive is a 100-minute lesson plan.
100 minutes. That's pretty intense.
Well, don't worry. We're giving you the express tool.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
I mean, you might be thinking, I already know numbers. I know how to tell time. But, think about it this way. This deep dive is about the structure of how we learn these concepts.
Ooh. Okay. I like that.
Like whether you're teaching these concepts to somebody else, or maybe you're learning a new language, or maybe you're just fascinated by those everyday things that we kind of take for granted.
Yeah, it's funny how the most basic things can actually be pretty complex when you really look at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting about this lesson plan that we're looking at is how systematic it is.
Oh, interesting.
Like it starts with the most basic building blocks and then methodically adds complexity as it goes.
So it shows how our brains build up to a really sophisticated understanding, but from a simple starting point.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. And it jumps right in with numbers. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Well, it actually starts with counting 1 to 20 first.
Okay, that does seem pretty basic.
Yeah. But does it really? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, getting the number order right was a big deal. Why does 7 come after 6?
It's funny because when you think about it, that decimal system that we use every day, it really relies on understanding those first 10 digits, right? And then you build from there. And even across languages, a lot of languages have similar structures for those early numbers.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's kind of a common starting point for communication no matter where you are in the world.
So it's sort of like a universal language in a way.
In a way, yeah. Like a Rosetta Stone for numbers.
I like that. But then English gets tricky, right? 13 versus 30.
Ugh. Don't even get me started. I still mix those up sometimes.
I know. It's why does English have to be so complicated sometimes?
Well, and the lesson plan actually highlights those pronunciation pitfalls early on.
Ooh, that's sorry.
Right from the beginning. It's okay, watch out for these. So after you get 1 to 20 down, then it moves on to how do you build bigger numbers? All the way up to 99.
And that's where understanding place value becomes really, really important.
Place value.
Yeah, 21, 32, 45. It's all about seeing the pattern, how the 10s and the 1s work together.
Oh, okay. So it's you're cracking a code.
Exactly. It's like a number code.
So we've cracked the code up to 99.
We're on a roll.
But what about those giant numbers? Does it cover those too?
It does. So this lesson plan goes all the way up to 10,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it really emphasizes that logic of thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones.
Okay, so it's still building on that same foundation, even when you get to those really big numbers.
Exactly. It's all connected. And it even touches on Roman numerals, which I think is really fascinating.
Roman numerals, like IVX.
Yeah. Because it shows how differently, like, ancient civilizations approached numbers.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a totally different way of thinking about it.
Right. It's like a whole other number system.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
Yep.
How does this lesson plan actually help someone, like, use numbers in everyday life?
That's a good question. Like, it's great to know the theory, but how do you actually put it into practice?
Well, that's where it gets really practical. The lesson plan includes things like phone numbers, asking someone's age, talking about money.
Oh, okay. So like real world scenarios.
Exactly. Using phrases you'd actually encounter in daily conversations.
So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for real life conversations.
Exactly. And there's even a suggestion for a game of number bingo.
Bingo, like with numbers instead of letters.
Yeah. I mean, I love bingo, but do you think it actually helps with numbers, or is it just like a fun activity?
Oh, I think games are fantastic for learning, especially for kids.
Oh, yeah.
Bingo can really help reinforce number recognition, the order of numbers.
And it's fun, so that's a bonus.
Exactly. Plus, a little friendly competition never hurt anyone.
Okay, so we've conquered the world of numbers.
At least up to 10,000.
But what about time? How does this lesson plan tackle that?
Crime is next, and the lesson plan starts by addressing the two main ways we see time: analog and digital clocks.
Yeah, those are like the two biggies.
Right, and making sure you're comfortable with both is really key because you encounter both in the real world.
It's funny, I'm so used to digital clocks now that I almost forget how to read an analog clock sometimes.
I know, right? It's like a lost art.
But the lesson plan uses those like classic phrases for telling time, like o'clock, quarter past, quarter to. But are those really universal? Like, do people in other countries say it the same way? That's a great question, and it actually brings up the, like, cultural aspect of time telling.
Interesting.
Like, those phrases are pretty common in a lot of English-speaking regions, but other cultures might have totally different ways of expressing those fractions of an hour.
So even something as basic as, like, quarter past isn't so straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends on where you are in the world and what language you're speaking.
Wow, I never thought about that before. So this lesson plan is making me realize there's a lot more to numbers and time than I initially thought.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
And the lesson plan also really emphasizes using a real clock to practice telling time.
Oh yeah, that visual element is so important, especially if you're someone who learns best by seeing things.
So you can actually see the hands moving as you're saying the phrases.
Right. It helps solidify that connection between the abstract idea of time and its physical representation.
So it's like you're making time tangible.
Exactly. You can actually see it happening.
That's pretty cool. And what I really appreciate about this lesson plan is how specific it is about like the actual phrases you would use for asking and telling time.
Oh yeah, it gives you the words.
Yeah, it's not just about understanding what time it is, it's about how to actually say it in conversation.
So it's like giving you the script for those everyday interactions.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be super helpful for someone learning English or even just someone who gets like tongue-tied asking for the time.
I know, right? It can be surprisingly tricky.
It's like suddenly you forget how to say the simplest things.
Exactly. And this lesson plan, it just takes away all that guesswork and helps you build confidence.
And just like with the number section, it also encourages role-playing to practice those time-telling skills.
Oh, that's great. So you're not just learning the words, you're actually using them.
It's like putting it all into action.
Exactly. Learning by doing.
So where does this deep dive go from here? We've covered numbers, we've tackled telling time. What's next?
Well, now it gets personal.
Ooh,
The lesson plan shifts its focus to how we use numbers and time in our own daily lives.
Okay, now that's something I can relate to. I mean, everyone has a routine, right?
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be back. So last time we were talking about how this lesson plan takes a really personal turn.
Yeah, it starts to focus on how we actually use numbers and time in our day-to-day life.
Like our routines.
Exactly. Waking up, going to work, bedtime, those everyday things.
Like they were reading my diary or something.
Right. But it's so smart how they incorporate the numbers and time telling we learned in the first part. It's not just about the concepts anymore. It's about applying them.
Oh, so they actually give you ways to practice.
Yeah, like they actually suggest students write out their daily routines.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just saying, I wake up at 7, you'd write.
I wake up at 7 o'clock, or I wake up at 7:15. Using those specific phrases.
Right, right. So it reinforces what you've learned, but it's also personalized.
Exactly. And it made me think, We talk about routines all the time, but do we ever really stop and analyze them?
Analyze them. How do you mean?
Well, how much of our day is really dictated by the clock versus how much is actually our own choice?
That's a good question. Never really thought about it that way.
But the lesson plan doesn't just stop at routines, does it?
Nope, it goes beyond those basic routines and gets into things like appointments and transportation schedules.
Oh, okay. Stuff that can get a little tricky if you're not really comfortable with numbers and time.
Right. Like imagine trying to catch a bus or make a doctor's appointment if you can't clearly communicate what time you need to be there.
Oh, yeah. That's when it stops being theoretical and starts being real life stress.
Exactly. And that's why this lesson plan is so helpful. It gives you those tools to feel confident and in control, even in situations where you might feel a little anxious.
Makes sense. But how do you actually know if someone's really grasped all this? Is there a test? Of course. There's another quiz, and this time it mixes numbers and time together.
Ooh, a combo quiz. That sounds like a good challenge. Though, sometimes I think I learn more from making up the questions than actually answering them.
Oh, I totally agree. When you have to come up with the questions, you have to think about the material in a whole different way.
Yeah, you have to anticipate what someone else might need to know, and that really helps you understand it better yourself.
So maybe we should encourage our listener to try making their own quizzes about numbers and time.
Ooh, I like that. Like a deep dive challenge for our listeners. But before we get too carried away with quiz making, let's step back for a second.
Okay.
What have we actually learned from this deep dive into the lesson plan so far?
Well, I think it shows that even with something as basic as numbers and time, there's real method to learning them.
Like a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Right.
You start with the building blocks and then you layer on complexity, always making sure to connect back to how you'd actually use this stuff in real life.
It's like a reminder that learning should be both structured and meaningful.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting how interconnected everything is. We started with numbers, then time, then routines, and now these more complex scenarios.
It's like it all builds on itself.
Right. It's not just separate topics, it's all woven together.
And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll see how this lesson plan really pushes learners to become fluent and confident with numbers and time in any situation.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into numbers and time. It's amazing how much ground we've covered, right?
It really is. We started with something as simple as counting to 20, and now look at us.
It's all thanks to this amazing lesson plan. The last part, we were talking about how it gets into these more real-life situations.
Yeah, like going to appointments, figuring out travel schedules, the stuff that can be kind of stressful if you're not totally comfortable with the language.
Exactly. And it's here, in this final stretch, that the lesson plan really seems to emphasize, conversational fluency.
Oh, for sure. It's okay, you've got the basics. Now let's make sure you can actually use them in real life.
So you're not just understanding numbers and time, you're actually able to use them without even thinking about it.
Right, it becomes second nature.
So it's like taking all those building blocks that we've been working with and turning them into a fully functional, communication system.
I like that, a communication system. It's about bridging that gap between what you know in your head and what you can actually do out in the world.
Exactly. And one of the ways this lesson plan does that is through a final quiz. We talked about quizzes before, and I know you're a big fan of making your own quizzes.
Oh yeah, always a good challenge.
But what's special about this final quiz in the lesson plan?
Well, it's designed to be more challenging than the previous ones. It brings together numbers and time in these more complex scenarios.
So it's not just what time is it?
No, it's more okay, if the train leaves at 4:15 and the journey takes 35 minutes, what time will you arrive? Stuff like that.
Ooh. Okay, that does sound a bit trickier.
It really makes you think, right? You have to do some calculations, put different pieces of information together.
And be able to explain your answer clearly.
Exactly. It's impressive considering this lesson plan started with basic counting.
It really is. But aside from quizzes, are there other ways the lesson plan encourages this real-world fluency?
Definitely. One of the last activities is a conversation practice where learners pair up and act out different scenarios.
Oh, fun.
It's like the grand finale. It brings everything together. Numbers, time, all the vocabulary they've learned.
Like they're finally performing on stage after weeks of rehearsals.
Exactly. And I bet it can be a bit nerve-wracking, putting yourself out there.
And also exciting, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a safe space to make mistakes and learn from them. And the more you practice, the more natural it all becomes.
So it's really about going beyond just knowing the material. It's about developing those communication skills.
For sure. It's about giving learners the confidence to navigate everyday situations.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
We've seen how a well-structured lesson plan can take you from basic counting all the way to, like, feeling empowered to use numbers and time in your everyday life.
And it's a great reminder that learning should be both fun and effective. I mean, who knew a deep dive into a 100-minute lesson plan could be so interesting?
So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep challenging yourselves to learn new things. Until next time.
All right, ready to dive into something we use every single day?
I'm all ears. Words.
The building blocks of communication.
Exactly. Those essential English words we use in everyday conversations. The kind that make you go, wait, how did I not know that one? Especially if English isn't your first language.
Happens to all of us. Even fluent speakers sometimes realize they're missing some key vocabulary for those daily interactions.
All right, that's where this guide comes in. It breaks down 99 essential English words. Not just a list, though.
Oh, so it's more than just a word dump.
Yeah. Categorized with examples and even some tips. It's like a cheat sheet for navigating daily life in English.
I like that. A practical approach, not just memorization.
So let's jump right in, shall we?
Let's.
Greetings and introductions. We've got the basics. Hello, goodbye.
Pretty straightforward.
But then it gets into politeness. Please and thank you.
Those little words can make a big difference.
They really do. You see, in English-speaking cultures, politeness is a big deal. It's not just about being nice. It's showing respect, consideration for the other person. Missing those cues can lead to awkwardness, even if you don't mean to be rude.
So even simple greetings can have a deeper cultural layer. Fascinating. Okay, moving on to everyday actions.
The verbs that keep us going.
Exactly. Eat, drink, walk, sleep, work.
Universal actions defining our routines no matter where you are.
Right, but even with these basic verbs, I bet there are cultural influences.
Absolutely. Think about work, for instance.
Work. How so?
In some cultures, it's deeply intertwined with community or family obligations. So their language might emphasize collaboration, shared responsibility, rather than just individual effort.
That's a great point. Even simple words can reveal a lot about a culture's values. Okay, how about time and scheduling? We have morning, afternoon, evening, today, tomorrow. The vocabulary of planning our lives. Seems pretty basic, but I'm sure there's more to it.
Oh, there definitely is. Time might seem universal, but how we perceive it, how we structure it, that varies widely across cultures. Some cultures might not even have specific words for afternoon or evening, you know.
Wow, so the way we talk about time can actually reveal how a culture views its relationship with the world.
Exactly. It's about more than just minutes and hours. It's a reflection of their worldview. Some cultures might focus on broader concepts, like before sunset or after dark.
So different cultures are almost speaking different time dialects.
That's a great way to put it, and that can lead to all sorts of confusion if you're not aware of the cultural context. Like imagine a meeting scheduled for late afternoon.
Okay, yeah.
In one culture, that might mean arriving a few minutes before sunset.
Right.
While in another, it could mean showing up at 4:00 p.m. sharp.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Those different interpretations could definitely cause some problems. All right, let's move on to basic descriptions. Words like happy, sad, big, small, beautiful, adding color and detail to our language.
And here's the thing about descriptions. They're subjective, aren't they?
What one person finds beautiful, another might find.
Ordinary, exactly. Our cultural backgrounds, personal experiences, even our moods, they all influence how we perceive and describe things.
So even a simple word like beautiful can be loaded with
all sorts of baggage, cultural and personal. It's true.
I'm starting to see how even basic words can reveal a lot about ourselves and how we see the world.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Language is like a window into the human mind. All the diverse ways we experience reality.
Okay, before we get too philosophical here, let's talk questions. The essentials. What, where, when, why, and how. These words drive conversations and help us learn. Seems simple, but I bet they hold more power than we realize.
Oh, they absolutely do. Questions are the engine of communication, wouldn't you say?
In what way?
Well, think about it. Without questions, we're just stuck with statements. No seeking information, no clarifying doubts, no challenging assumptions. We wouldn't be able to learn and grow.
So a well-placed question can be more powerful than a statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It could spark curiosity, encourage critical thinking, and lead to much deeper understanding. And it's not just about asking the right questions,
It's also about
being open to the answers. Even if they challenge our preconceived notions, sometimes the most unexpected answers lead to the most valuable insights.
That's a great point. All right, so we've covered some pretty fundamental categories here, but this guide has so much more to offer.
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface. There are some real gems we haven't even touched on yet.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I want to go back to something you said about the power of questions.
Right. Even a simple question can unlock a whole new understanding.
Absolutely. Like you're planting a seed
A seed.
of curiosity, and who knows what kind of ideas might blossom from it.
I like that analogy. It's so true. I think it's important to cultivate that questioning mindset, especially today when we're bombarded with information from all sides.
Yeah, we need to develop our own internal BS detectors. Can't just absorb everything we're told.
Right. We need to ask questions, challenge those assumptions, think critically. And that's where those essential question words really come in. What, where, when, why, and how.
They're the tools to dig deeper, to uncover the truth, make sense of everything. Okay, so what other treasures does this guide have for us?
Well, there's a section I'm excited to talk about. Advanced words for fluency. These are the words that can really elevate your conversations, help you express yourself with more nuance.
Ooh, give me some examples.
Think about words like opportunity, priority, challenge, achievement, and motivation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
These are the words that often come up when talking about goals, aspirations,
Yeah.
values.
So they help us articulate our dreams and navigate those big life decisions.
Exactly. And it's not just for personal conversations. Imagine you're applying for a job
Oh, right.
or pitching a new idea. Being able to articulate your motivation or highlight past achievements, that can make all the difference.
It's like giving yourself a linguistic upgrade, equipping yourself with the right vocabulary.
Precisely. And these so-called advanced words, they often build upon that foundation we talked about earlier.
So we're adding new levels to our language house, making a more intricate structure. Speaking of foundations, let's revisit those greetings and introductions. Might seem basic, but first impressions are important.
Absolutely. That initial greeting can really set the tone for an interaction. A polite hello or good morning, a genuine smile, good eye contact, that can go a long way in building rapport.
Makes people feel valued.
Exactly. And those little pleases and thank yous, don't underestimate those. They might be small, but they convey a lot. Respect, appreciation, consideration.
It's about acknowledging the other person, showing you value their time and effort.
Exactly. Sometimes those simple words can be the most powerful. A heartfelt thank you can mean more than a long speech.
It's the sincerity that matters, which reminds me, we were talking about cultural context before.
Oh, right. Different cultures have different expectations when it comes to greetings and politeness. So even if you know the words, it's crucial to be aware of how they might be perceived in different settings.
You don't want to accidentally offend someone, like misinterpreting a social cue.
Exactly. For instance, in some cultures, direct eye contact is a sign of respect.
Yeah.
In others, it could be seen as aggressive. Those subtle nuances can really impact how your message is received.
It's like learning a whole secret language of communication.
It is. That's why immersing yourself in the culture can be so helpful. Even through movies or music, you can see how language is used in different ways.
It's a glimpse behind the scenes. And, sometimes the most unexpected sources can teach us something new about language. Like, I remember learning an idiom from a song lyric once. It completely changed how I understood that phrase.
That's great. It just goes to show that learning can happen anywhere, anytime. It's about being open to those unexpected moments. Which brings us back to those everyday actions we talked about earlier, those verbs like eat, drink, walk, sleep, and work.
The foundation of our daily routines. It's like the alphabet of movement. These verbs help us describe the most basic things we do.
Exactly. And you can combine those simple verbs with other words to create such nuance. Like instead of just saying eat,
You could say.
eat quickly, eat slowly, eat hungrily, eat delicately. Each phrase creates a different image, a different feeling.
It's like adding different colors to a painting, making it more vivid and expressive.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why a strong foundation of basic vocabulary is so important. It gives you the tools to communicate with more precision, more creativity.
The more tools you have, the more you can do with them. Now let's talk about time and scheduling. All about managing our time and navigating those appointments. Deadlines.
And as we said before, different cultures view time differently. So even words like morning, afternoon, evening, today, tomorrow, there can be cultural nuances there.
Like the difference between being fashionably late and being rude, it all depends on the context.
So true. In some cultures, being on time means arriving a few minutes late.
Really?
In others, it means being there at the exact time. If you don't understand those differences, it can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts.
It's like speaking different dialects, but for time.
I like that. It emphasizes the importance of clear communication and being aware of those potential misinterpretations.
Okay, so we've covered greetings and introductions, everyday actions, and now time and scheduling, all essential for navigating those daily interactions.
And we've touched on the importance of cultural context, those nuances of language. Remember, effective communication goes beyond just knowing the words.
It's about understanding those unspoken rules, the different ways people use language to express themselves.
Exactly. It's about being mindful, respectful, and always open to learning.
It really is amazing how much depth there is to even the most basic words. But we can't forget about questions, like unlocking deeper understanding.
Absolutely. A well-crafted question can push us beyond our comfort zones. It's like going on an adventure. You never know where you'll end up.
Okay, I'm ready for that adventure. What other word categories do we have?
Well, there's one that always makes me hungry.
Ooh, which one?
Food and dining. You know, bread, water, coffee, fruit, vegetable.
Ah, the staples. Food is such a universal thing. It connects people everywhere.
It really is. Sharing meals, creating memories, it's like a language of its own.
And having the vocabulary to talk about food, it opens up a whole world of cultural exploration. Imagine trying to order a meal in a foreign country without knowing the words for basic ingredients.
You'd be lost, like trying to read a map without knowing the symbols.
Well.
Speaking of navigating the world.
Oh, are we going shopping and money?
We are. Buy, sell, price, expensive, cheap, essential for commerce and negotiation.
It's about more than just spending, though, right?
Definitely. These words help you participate in transactions, make informed choices. And who doesn't love a good bargain?
Right.
Being able to say something is expensive or cheap, that comes in handy in so many situations.
I bet. And I'm sure those perceptions of value vary across cultures, too.
They absolutely do. What's considered expensive in one place might be a steal somewhere else.
Okay, where to next?
How about travel and directions?
For those with wanderlust?
Exactly. Car, train, airplane, hotel, map, road. These are the words that help you explore. Imagine trying to navigate a new city without knowing how to ask for directions.
I'd probably end up in the wrong country.
Maybe. Okay, let's turn inward now.
Are we talking about emotions?
Yes. Love, hate, excited, nervous, angry, sad. It's about expressing our inner world, all those complex feelings.
Being able to put our emotions into words, that's important.
It is. For healthy communication, for building relationships, it helps us navigate the ups and downs of life. And sometimes, the simplest words are the most powerful. I love you. A sincere apology. They can convey so much emotion, even without fancy language.
It's about the feeling behind the words. Okay, what's the last category?
Let's talk weather. We have words like rain, sunny, cold, hot, windy, snow, the vocabulary of the elements.
Weather is such a universal topic.
Right. We all experience it, and it's a great conversation starter. You can talk about the weather with anyone, regardless of their language. It's like a built-in icebreaker.
Yeah. And who hasn't bonded with someone over complaining about the heat or the cold?
Exactly. Weather brings people together. So, there you have it. We've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's fascinating how much we can learn from even the simplest words. About language, about culture, even about ourselves.
It's been a great journey. And for our listener, this is just the beginning. The English language is vast. There's always more to learn and explore.
So keep those dictionaries close, be curious, and never stop discovering the power of words. Thanks for joining us.